Hello, hello.
Hey Andy, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Brian?
Good, good. I'm obviously very excited to talk today because it's been a historic time in crypto, and there have been stories coming out right and left.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'll just quickly do the intros. Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. So today is Thursday, the 14th of November, and I think just maybe 8 hours ago, I think Bitcoin breached $93,000. The new all-time high. And so this episode today is going to be really exciting, really interesting. Brian's going to give us a lot of insights. We're going to, look at on-chain activities. We're going to look at sentiment and see what's going on. So, yeah, very, very warm welcome to you, Brian, from Santiment.
Great to be here, Andy. There's so many things to talk about today, and I can't wait to jump into some of the most important issues that we can talk about over the next half hour.
Awesome. Let's dive right into it. By the way, love the new setup. You crisp clear.
I'm happy to hear it. Yeah, the background unfortunately is just an illusion. One day maybe if crypto really takes off even more, but for now I got the good mic at least, so I appreciate it.
Awesome, awesome. So yeah, we hit 93,000. It was like 2 a.m. over here when I looked at it, and I was pretty pumped, pretty excited.
Yeah, I mean, it's every single time we've seen a milestone, we're kind of like, well, is this going to be the pullback? And throughout the 80Ks, one thing that was noticeable was one, the crowd was not quite showing the FOMO that we would expect.
Hmm.
And two, whales just kept on accumulating even as prices rose, which is super rare. Normally, we'll see something like, you know, across to 80K right here. And then over the next 3 to 5 days, we see a pullback. But we've seen 1, 2, 3, 4 days in a row where we've gone up ever since we crossed 80K in terms of whale holdings. And not just a little bit, whales are accumulating at a significant rate. So just since November, we'll call it the election day, November 5th, the past 8 days, so Bitcoin has gone up 30% in value, and 10 plus BTC wallets have added 28.5K more BTC to their wallets. That's significant in case this green line isn't clear enough. You know, a normal accumulation cycle might be a little bit of a slow uptick from these sharks and whales, but all of a sudden we just go supernova, and what a coincidence, Bitcoin's price follows.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see the other wallets actually going down.
Right. Yeah. The reason I have these red and blue ones here is to highlight how stable coins are looking, specifically the key
Ah,
stakeholder tier of 100K to $10 million.
yep.
This is kind of where the smart money tends to fall in the range of. Anything
Hmm.
more, it tends to be exchange wallets. Not always, but generally speaking. So when we see this go down, it's not necessarily a terrible sign, but it does show that Bitcoin has been bought with stable coins, not just, new fiat coming from, billionaire bank accounts out there. So what I'd like to see is a bit of a change in direction for Tether. We're already kind of seeing it with USD coin. That's what this blue line is.
Hmm.
So we see that the USDC line really dropped significantly as people bought during the election announcement. So right here, from November 4th to 6th, you can see it really plummet and Bitcoin accumulation going up. So
Hmm.
they started to reverse a few days later, and now they're accumulating again, even though Bitcoin is also going up. That's a great sign. However, Tether is still dropping like crazy, which means, they're swapping it for Bitcoin. If we go back like a full year, ignore that this is off the axis for now and just focus on Tether, you can see just how far the accumulation or the dumping has really gone in terms of the smart money Tether holdings. They held 37.2% in late November of last year, and now they only hold 25.9% of the supply. That's a huge, huge drop. So that isn't necessarily as big of a deal as this line for Bitcoin just going nuts, but I would like to see the plummeting stop so that we know that there's still dry powder for the future in these whale
Yep.
bags.
Oh yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
it has been a crazy rise since the elections, hasn't it? I remember last month we were talking about the elections, the upcoming elections, and now we're here, and the elections have happened. The Yeah, it's and since then it's just been pumping.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Yeah.
just yeah, not just crypto markets, even the stock market's been pumping. Look at
Yeah.
Tesla.
Oh yeah. Anything that Elon Musk owns, of course, with his candidate getting chosen, there's
Yeah.
an undeniable correlation there. But yeah, the stock markets have been looking fine. They had a big reaction right as Donald Trump was elected, and they've cooled off just a little bit this week. If we just look at
Oh
the
yeah.
past 3 months, so this is the S&P here in teal. We can
Mhm.
see the Trump elect reaction over the next 2 days, or even 3 days. We really went up high. We kind of matched that all-time high on Monday. Today would be Wednesday, and you can see it's kind of been chopping a little since. So very short-term sample size. We're right around that all-time high range. I would say though that we've been flat over the past 4 business days, call it that. So maybe some signs of a top forming for the S&P. We'll get to a little bit of what the data is predicting in crypto and see how it relates to the S&P later on in this call. But what I do find interesting, Andy, is gold and silver, which is normally kind of the quote unquote safe haven investment for many traders, especially whale traders. Uh, this is a sign that those whale traders are very confident because they're selling off their gold and silver to buy more speculative assets like crypto and equities that might have more of a positive reaction from the booming economy that Donald Trump seems to be promising.
Yeah. 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 That's interesting because I guess as you mentioned, gold's always been that safe haven asset in terms of uncertainty, gold
Right.
and silver. So yeah, I guess things are looking good.
Yeah, and I like to keep funding rate showing here. It's just in dark purple, but you can see over on the right there, lots of longing starting to show up on Binance. These are the most significant spikes of longs versus shorts in terms of the ratio since
Hmm.
the March all-time high back when we got a little about to like 73.8K, if I remember correctly. Um,
Hmm.
so not to be a bit of a party pooper, but we are seeing a lot of similar signs to what we saw right around mid-March for those who remember the same kind of euphoria, the same kind of longs showing up. It's not quite
Hmm.
as scary yet, but it's close now that we've breached 90K. Um, and it's so tough to call the exact top. All I can say is as long as the whales are still climbing, we probably should be okay, or at least not at a risk of a huge dump. Um, but our own Twitter feed, right? X feed, I should say. Sorry, Elon, is filled with uh, some cautious suggestions right now, where we're telling people, MVRVs are high, sentiment is very high, longs are high. Yes, we're all in celebration mode, but the thing that
Yep.
a lot of retail traders forget to do is sell or take profit.
Yep.
And so far, they've gotten lucky because the whales keep pushing up prices for them. But eventually, there will be a lot of people kicking themselves for not taking profit. So it doesn't mean it's now. It could be at 110K or 130K. But we definitely always see an end to a bull cycle, and the overheating signals are starting to pop up.
That's interesting. Yeah. 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 As you mentioned in the deep purple, the funding rates on Binance, that's I mean, that's quite a spike.
Yeah, I mean, we're comparing it to the recent past. So if I zoom it out here, I've got a better, more detailed funding rate. So this is showing every 8 hours. That's how often Binance actually updates their
Yep.
funding rates. I'll just take everything else off to make it easy. I'll even take off, well, BitMEX is looking interesting too, but Binance is the bigger story. Um,
Mm.
so this is the past 3 months. Let's go back like a full year here. And just for comparison, so this was March. This was when everyone said, okay, Bitcoin's going straight to 100K. I'm
Yep.
going to open my 100Xs or 10X leverage longs, whatever they were doing. And then
Yep.
liquidations just destroyed people right here.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and for comparison, I'll even just hide the price for a minute. So this is where we are now, right here. It's not necessarily in this huge bright green range,
Mhm.
but it's getting there. You know, when people
Yep.
started to buy the bounce in early April and then got
Mhm.
punished again,
Yep.
we're at that level. So it doesn't necessarily mean a correction is happening tomorrow.
Yep.
Some are arguing it already did because we dropped about 5-6% since that all-time high just 12
Mhm.
hours ago. So uh, yeah, this is one of the more concerning signs. We don't want to see this level of greed popping up yet, especially when so many people are hoping to see six-figure Bitcoin.
Yep. Yep. You know what I like about our show is, the ability for data and using the sentiment platform for you to give that perspective when everyone's kind of, really emotional, celebrating, really happy that we have a new all-time high. It's always important to have perspective.
Yeah, I mean, data keeps the emotion completely out of it. It doesn't
Yeah.
care about your feelings or your FOMO or your FUD, anything in between. It just says, here's where we are now. Here's what it looked like last time we were in a bull cycle. Do what you want with this info. And that's what I try to do when I analyze the markets. I'm not telling people what to do. I don't make stances on what a top definitively is, but I have to, be able to look through the all of the emotion and positive reports and BlackRock this, Grayscale, MicroStrategy, great news here and there that's undoubtedly good for crypto, but still know that, prices typically move the opposite direction of the crowd's expectation. And right now, the crowd is expecting 100K very soon. Um, and then the other fraction is what are whales doing? And they are still pumping it. At least as of yesterday's data, we should have today's data shortly after this call for those who are using the platform. So, as long as we keep seeing uptick days in terms of their cumulative wallets, 10 plus or more, uh, good days usually are ahead. That's pretty clear based on our historic track records.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good.
Yeah. We've got plenty of utility metrics. I mean, daily active addresses just hit. Um, if we go to the second to last day, so this was Monday, they hit essentially 1 million unique addresses interacting on the network. And that was the first time we saw that happen since March 12th. This was 2 days before the all-time high. So in a vacuum, growing daily active addresses are good. You want to see more utility on the network. But when it starts to really spike all of a sudden, it's a pretty clear
Mhm.
sign that people are only using their addresses because it's so volatile or they have FOMO. And that can often lead to a top as well. Here's the one
Mhm.
that I think we always go over on our calls. This is MVRV. You're well familiar with it by now, but essentially any 30-day average returns from the average wallet that's above about 15%, that's kind of the danger area. And right now we're at about 16.5%. You can see March was really the last time we went above it, and that's when we topped out. March
Mhm.
14th was the day of the all-time high, and we immediately dropped down. Uh, the 365 day, this is where it doesn't look quite as scary. So any wallet that's been active in the past year, their average return is at plus 41.6%. When we topped out in March, it got all the way up to about plus 72. Doesn't mean we're going to go all the way up there, but basically every percentage point we are above 0% with these two MVRVs, that means your fellow peers are well into profit, and your fellow peers are kind of your, I wouldn't say opponents or enemies, but they're the people that need to be losing money so you can gain money. It's a zero sum game. That's what crypto is. So, you know, if you and your small circle of friends are making money together, that's great. But understand that the average Joe out there is too. And the average Joe eventually has to lose or buy at the very top and then watch their portfolio plummet in order to justify Bitcoin continuing to climb.
Yep. Yep. Do you see, do we see many retail investors coming in? Do we see the smaller guys coming in, or are we still looking at the price movement being influenced by the sharks and the whales right now?
Yeah, that's a great question. So just like we like to look at whales and how much they're accumulating, we also like to see when retail is dumping. That's a very good sign because it means they're capitulating, they're bored with the prices like they were here in June. Maybe they're scared like they were here in January because they think prices are going to keep going down. And that helps. They're basically selling when they do this to the sharks and whales. They're donating coins to them and saying, you have them. We don't think they're going to be worth anything. And since the election, we suddenly had a turn. This was November 5th, the day Trump was elected officially. And the amount of holders has gone up by about 180,000. It's a modest 0.33% rise over the past week or so. Not too significant, but they're going back up. But prior to the election, the 3 weeks before it, they were really scared and they were dumping a lot, about 218,500 Bitcoin wallets that were holding coins were liquidated when it came to the net difference. So this was showing that there was a lot of capitulation. And when they started to capitulate, that's when the price suddenly started to skyrocket. So now that it's starting to climb again, it's a sign of some FOMO. We're not seeing any crazy steep climbs like this, but it's something. And it shows that, people are definitely paying attention to this price action and going like, ooh, I want in. I want to see a plus 15% day on my money. And that's why this is starting to climb again. But I think if there's some scare in the next few days, maybe we drop to 85K. I'm not predicting anything. But if it does, I think we'll start to see a lot of retail traders liquidating, jumping out and saying, all right, I think I caught the top. That's good enough for me. Here you go, sharks and whales. You guys have my coins. And that would be a good sign.
Okay. Yeah. Through my conversations and observation, speaking to generally retail investors, it's always interesting. If they're not already in, they'll go, oh, but it's too high now. And then it gets to a psychological point where it keeps going up and up and up to the point where then all logic goes out the window, and then that FOMO kicks in hard. They're like, I don't care what price it is, I just want some Bitcoin.
Yep.
And it's always interesting. And then for those who have some Bitcoin or are holding on to it, you'll find that like this 30% that we've seen since was it 69 or 70, you'll see them ready to take profit right now, which so anyway, two sides to the coin. It's interesting, those the no coiners and those with coins. But yeah, that I see that every cycle, especially those who don't have coins. They'll resist, and then and the price keeps going up, and then it gets to the point where they decide, you know what, I just want some. I don't care what price it is.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Sometimes people just see these almost fictitious looking numbers that they've never seen before for the market value, and they go, I don't know what the right entry point is. I'm going to feel stupid if I don't own Bitcoin, so I'm going to jump in now and just close my eyes. It's a very common, retail trader strategy. And there's people who are, we call those maybe like the level 1 traders in terms of psychology, where they're just like, screw it, I want Bitcoin, not going to look at the price. And then the level 2s who go, ooh, I need to buy low, so I'm going to wait. And then they watch the prices continue to climb until they get frustrated and just buy in. And then the level 3s who go, basically, everyone is buying, therefore I should sell, and I'm going to wait till everyone wants to sell and then buy. And that's essentially what Santiment is. We're the contrarians who are using data and historical evidence to prove prices are moving the opposite direction of the crowd. So the community that is part of Santiment basically says, I don't care what the news is about crypto here or there, or, the halving that just happened or merge that just happened for Ethereum. I'm going to go off of the perception of the crowd and do the opposite. The crowd thinks this is the best thing ever and they're all buying. All right, I'm out. The crowd is freaked out and they think that Sam Bankman-Fried just destroyed crypto. All right, I'm buying. Right? Like that's essentially how Santiment users think. And anecdotally, I've seen a whole lot of community members do pretty well.
Nice. Take the emotions out of it, be data driven.
That's right. And we see like this spike here. This was the ratio of positive versus negative sentiment. I'll zoom in here just a little bit so we can get the price down a little more granular. So this was the election day, and everybody said this is so good for crypto. And it turned out, after a very short-term drop, they were right. This was a rare moment where the crowd basically said Trump was the pro business presidential candidate, so I'm going to assume this is good for crypto. And all the comments were very positive. Then we go on this huge run, but you can actually see there's a lot of doubters all of a sudden. I mean, we'll call this about the average line, give or take. The past 3 days, we've actually seen more significantly negative comments than usual. So people are doubting this, and they've been trying to call the top. And I think this big green candle here to get us above 93K, that shocked a lot of people here. So I'm very interested to see what's next and how the crowd reacts. But right now, they're not quite as euphoric as you may think, at least for Bitcoin in particular.
Interesting. That is interesting what the data is showing.
Yeah, and I put this post out too because obviously you're going to get a lot of social discussion related to Bitcoin. This is the top 6 layer 1s in green, the top 6 layer 2s in purple, and the top 6 meme coins in pink. And we're just comparing the dominance of discussion that's happening on a daily basis between them.
Mm-hmm.
So Bitcoin passes 90K. Everyone starts talking about it, whether they're bullish or bearish. They all have polarizing opinions about Bitcoin. And then it starts to go down and it's replaced by, all right, which meme coin should I buy? Because all the profits get redistributed into Doge and Bonk and WIF and Pepe, and they're just going off right now. I mean, Bonk doubled in market value in the past 7 to 10 days. WIF was right up there with it, and I know Doge did too. So this is usually the last stage of the cycle before we see a drop, but it doesn't mean the stage ends tomorrow. It could end in a week or two, and you have to really pay attention to a lot of metrics in order to precisely see when we're about to reverse course.
Mhm. Yeah. So is this showing that layer twos are not really being discussed that much?
Yeah, exactly. They're just completely they're stuck in the middle while all the attention went from Bitcoin to okay, which meme coins are getting the highest pumps right now. And so the layer 2s that are actually, putting out new technological advances in blockchains and doing a lot of things that Bitcoin isn't, they're being left in the dust right now just because their price appeal isn't as exciting and intriguing to people.
That's interesting. It's interesting. This cycle, I guess, where meme coins are, were where the layer twos were last cycle,
Mhm.
somewhat. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm,
So
okay.
healthy is usually when the crowd is focusing on, the layer ones and layer twos, like we were here in mid to late October. And that's right when the rally was about to kick off. And
Hmm.
then unhealthy is when you start to see everyone say, screw the technology, I'm just here to get rich. Which meme coin is the best for me to buy? You see a bunch of people searching for this on X and Reddit and Telegram and all sorts of places. And that's why we suddenly see these spikes.
Hmm. Cool. Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah. And you can see right now the top trending words showing Doge at number one, Pepe at number three, Peanut at number four, 100K, obviously referring to Bitcoin at number five. So lots of greed words there at the top that typically indicate the crowd is flashing dollar signs in their eyes. So yeah, just something to consider, if you care about this kind of data, which I humbly believe you should.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I guess it does. I'm not surprised Doge being up at number one because Elon Musk himself's been pushing the Department of Government Efficiency meme around
Right.
in quite a few of his posts on X.
Yeah, and that's part of it. I'd still argue the majority of it is just how much Doge has risen in value, and the people paying attention to it. You can see how much the FOMO is really just taken over, which normally will imply there's a top coming up very soon.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
But yeah,
that's
that's
good.
about all I prepared today. I should also mention ETF volume got to
Yes.
8.2 billion, which is the highest day since the literal top day on March 14th. So another slightly concerning sign there if you believe in history repeating itself. Lots of volume coming from the top seven largest Bitcoin ETFs right now. And it if anything, it means there's a lot of polarization right now.
Well, it's interesting that so would the data show, I mean, what it's showing, does that mean that even the TradFi investors or traders are FOMOing in besides the crypto natives?
I don't think it necessarily means they're FOMOing in. It actually could mean there's a lot of sellers and buyers at the same time because prices are so volatile. Because this isn't inflow versus outflow, it's just pure volume.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So if we wanted to look at inflows, we've got individual inflows for different ETFs. We don't have total yet, which I'm hoping we get soon.
Hmm.
But if we look at like IBIT, Fidelity, I mean, Fidelity has had a good 4 days here where it's had a lot of inflows. While I wait for the others to load, I'm just going to check. Okay, so look, BitB, for example, 3 straight huge outflow days.
Oh
So
yeah.
don't be too, intrigued by volume
Mm,
spikes because that can very well mean outflows, not just
mm,
inflows. Two massive outflows for Van Eck as well the last couple days.
oh yeah.
So it's not all good. It just means there's a lot of polarization. I'm actually seeing a little more outflow than inflow when I look at the ETFs individually. So yeah, there's caution flags. We're not going to make predictions and say 93.4K was the official top, but we're going to say that history has shown that there is a cool off period when we see such enormous surges throughout crypto like we have. And proceeding with caution at the very least is not the worst strategy in the world right now.
All right. And I think that's a great note to end on. Hey, Brian, always great to have you on. Thank you for sharing that. I think it's a great dose of data-driven reality in a current emotional market that's happening. Like celebrations all around. People are happy. But yeah, it's always great to kind of look at the data, see what's happening,
Right.
and then be aware. Like go in with your eyes open or not. Just be aware of what's going on, and that's what that's why we love Santiment here at EquitiesTracker. It's a fantastic platform. And just a shout out to everyone who's tuning in. The founder of Santiment, Maxim, will be in Malaysia, and we're having an event on Saturday the 23rd. So if you're interested to find out more, listen from the founder himself on the Saturday the 23rd. More details to come, and which come talk to us at EquitiesTracker. But yeah, it's great. It's great to have you on today, Brian, and thank you for sharing. I think the audience will really appreciate what you shared today.
Thank you, my friend. And I talked to Maxim. He's definitely very excited. So I'm happy you're going to get to catch up with him, and I'm excited to hear how it goes.
Yeah, great. Thank you. All right. Well, you have a nice evening, and everyone else have a great day ahead.
Thanks,
Thank
Andy.
you, Brian. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.